I'm fairly certain I either called this being the case if we were to actually try it. I think we talked about this, but this is great.
Oh, I thought you were going to start the segment.
I mean,
All
okay,
right.
so
on Nintendo Life, an article was made based upon a YouTube video about a user who had a graded Zelda II Classic Game Boy NES Classic series on Game Boy Advance. They put out a series. It was about 14 games they did, like Ice Climber, Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario.
No, those were different. But they did Super Mario Brothers, they did Zelda, Castlevania, Metroid,
Blue Fight was it?
Xevious for whatever reason. Yeah, there was a lot of. There was about 10 to 15.
Donkey Kong was one. So he got this graded, sealed, and it was graded. A UK grading company called UK Graders.
Oh, this was UK. I thought this might have been. I know they mentioned. I didn't know if this was UK or VGA.
It's UK Graders, which I guess is the European equivalent of the
VGA,
Video Game Authority.
Meh.
So it was graded originally a 75, which I have no idea what that means.
75 plus.
75 plus, better than 75, I guess negative or minus. So he takes a Dremel bit to the case, and then pries it open in the bottom. Carefully takes the game out. This is on YouTube. This user sends it back in to get graded. It comes back in 85. So it actually comes back as a better grade, which isn't shocking, being that there isn't a really transparent process to how this shit is graded in the first place.
Right.
Whether how much of the weight is put on the cellophane being clear versus the damage on the box. What's the percentage there? Do 2 or 3 little rips give it go from a 90 to an 85? When you grade a comic book from 0.5 to 10, there are definitions on each of those. And while there is subjective nature to it along the way, there's at least a definition saying this is a 0.5, this is a 1, this is a 1.5, this is a 2.
It has also historically been going on for so long that the people who are trained into it, they learn from people who have done it before. And I'm sure that there are going to be people who go, well, everyone's got to start somewhere. Except for the fact that this has always seemed like a money grab, whereas comic book grading and preservation was at one point in time, especially before scanners and computers, an incredibly important thing if you wanted to keep these issues around. So, whereas there is a very fine set of rules, and it's been tested, while discrepancies can occur, even my wife has said, lots of times when people have tried to pull this with comic books, as long as it's taken out of the thing perfectly, it doesn't come back lower or higher. It comes back the same grade.
Sure. And plus, like you said, it's been around for a lot longer. I want to say 30 years at least, grading comic books.
I want to say 30 to 40, but 30 at least.
Yes. And there's a lot more at stake. There's people been collecting comics for 50 years, 60 years. But the other problem with this is that this is CGA, at least in the U.S. The CGA does the action figures,
right?
And they do also the video games. The guys on record, the CGA guy, when they actually visited the office, it was like this local business sort of walkthrough thing. And the guy running it on record said, at least for the toys, said one of the reasons to get this graded, get your stuff graded, is that it increases the value. He says it point blank. Search for that video on YouTube. I'm not making this up. He says it increases the value. Obviously, that's bullshit because it doesn't.
No.
It may appear to increase the value. The only thing that increases the value to me is that it's adding an acrylic case. So that means it increases the value. What's the value of the acrylic case?
$25
or $40 for a video game or whatever it is. That's the increase in value. So again, I'm not shocked that you come back a different grade because no one even knows who does the grading. It's not transparent. Who are the experts that do the grading? Who are the experts that when they bring in a prototype to get verified, who are the people verifying the prototypes?
To me, I think it's fairly easy to look at comic book grading and even baseball card or whatever, sports card grading, and look at it as something that, while occasionally I might be or have thoughts on it, there is a valid argument to be made there for game preservation. You're not convincing me that this is valid game preservation. Valid game preservation is dumping and storing of ROMs and ensuring the games and the code and the data are around for all future generations.
Because it's media.
Because it's media.
Comic books is not a media that is different from the physical object or baseball cards.
Right. So I find this. I find that's why I find it highly. This is why I can make a distinction between comic book and card grading and video game grading. Is one is a cash grab. That almost it just seems like the sleaziest scheme in the world to artificially inflate the price of your stuff to sell to other idiots who feel like it actually adds worth to it, while filling the pockets of these people who came up with the genius idea of slapping a random fucking number on your game that can change at any time, upwards even, and putting it in an acrylic case.
The other reason why it's a cash grab is that for comic books and baseball cards, you are the individual grades define the value, and you don't want to be screwed when you're buying a comic book. Especially when you're buying a comic book, you also have to get it graded to make sure there was any restoration done, because a restored comic book is worth far less than even a damaged comic book. That's the reason why. But when you get graded a video game, 99% of the time it's for a sealed brand new game.
Right.
So then what does that grade actually mean? It's new either way, quote unquote new. It's just now you're just grading the variation of
the
how
newness.
New is it. That doesn't make any sense to me. It just doesn't. Obviously, if you want to buy a sealed video game, yes, there could be differences in value, but it's not like you're grading, okay, that Deathbots is a 2.5 versus a 5.0 or 7. It's not going to affect the value as much as a comic book worth $50,000. And then having to know exactly, is that a 3.5 or a 4.5 or 4?
And I also feel if you're buying a new sealed game, it's enough to put it into a protective acrylic case without the grading. I think the smart sealed collectors aren't going to be fooled or swayed by a grade. They're going to be like, oh, you've got a sealed bubble bobble. Okay, and you're taking care of it, and I like this condition. We're going to work out a deal on our own, and they're going to be fine. They don't care about a fucking number and a sticker.
Yeah, and plus you can't take it out of that fucking case easily.
Whereas if you have a comic book, the more you open it, the more you use it. If you just put a comic book in a case and you're trying to sell it to someone and they want to know what the true condition is, you got to let them look at it, or you send it to an authority that can go, okay, there's no restoration, the pages are off-white or white or whatever, grading they want to give it. Mm-hmm. They provide a little snippet of historical, wraparound cover, first appearance, blah, 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 and you know exactly what you're getting, and you know what condition you're getting it in. You can look at a sealed video game and assess well enough on your own whether or not that's the condition you want it in, because you know what's inside the damn thing.
Yeah, you can't flip through it.
Right.
Like a comic book to make sure, okay, it's missing the poster, or there's a rip on page 14.
Yeah.
Which is funny, because speaking with someone from, I won't say any website association, might have, this is of course alleged, I don't know this information personally, so this is alleged, that there was a resealed game sent into the video game graders, and they didn't catch that it was a resale, and it came back.
Oh, I'd heard this too. Yes,
I'm sure that's happened more than once as a test. It's just not publicized.
Yeah,
because I'm not saying I don't want to put a downer on the sealed game market, the graded market, but be careful out there. That's all I'm going to say.